enchanted forest.
You've seen an enchanted forest?
Place, but something went wrong.
Has Elsa seemed weird to you?
She...
Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
From the moment Frozen 2 ended, fans around the world have been eager to imagine what direction Elsa and Anna's lives will take in Frozen 3, especially now that both sisters stand in positions of strength, responsibility, and emotional maturity that are different from anything they experienced before. Anna is the Queen of Arendelle, a role that brings its own challenges, diplomatic decisions, and the weight of ruling a kingdom full of citizens who trust her leadership after years of uncertainty. Elsa, on the other hand, has embraced her identity as the fifth spirit, the bridge between the human world and the elemental spirits, living among the enchanted forest and forming a deeper connection with nature and magic. Their separation, though peaceful and chosen with mutual understanding, has created an entirely new dynamic that fans expect Frozen 3 to explore, as both a journey of reunion and transformation. Unlike the earlier films, which centered around discovering who they were and healing childhood wounds, the next chapter has the potential to explore what it means to move forward as powerful women with distinct destinies, who still remain emotionally bound as sisters by love, memory, and shared purpose. The film could open with Anna adjusting to the day-to-day life of ruling, waking up to council meetings, border negotiations, discussions about trade routes, and the responsibility of making sure Arendelle stays protected from threats beyond their control. While she has evolved into a confident queen, audiences know her personality thrives on spontaneity, compassion, and curiosity, and Frozen 3 could showcase how she balances the serious expectations of royalty with her warm, adventurous spirit. Kristoff, likely serving as her trusted partner and future king, may provide support in his own grounded and loyal way, managing responsibilities while still staying true to his humble background and love for reindeer and forest life. Meanwhile, Elsa's journey is entirely different, shaped by listening to the spirits of fire, earth, water, and wind, learning to communicate through intuition and magic, rather than politics and human structures. She may spend her days exploring the deeper mysteries of the enchanted forest, learning ancient knowledge that predates Arendelle itself, and uncovering truths about elemental powers that even she has yet to fully understand. This parallel growth between the sisters opens the door to a story that is not about physical distance, but about the harmony between worlds, one ruled by human society and the other by forces beyond mortal control. The emotional center of Frozen 3 could revolve around how both sisters realize that even though they have accepted different paths, they still rely on each other to navigate new challenges. Anna might face a mysterious threat against Arendelle. Whether it comes from natural changes, rising tension with neighboring lands, or magical disturbances linked to the spirits, and she may need Elsa's wisdom to uncover its cause. Likewise, Elsa could sense an imbalance or danger that affects both worlds and realize she cannot face it without the support and encouragement of Anna, whose courage and empathy have always grounded her. The film may build on the idea that their destinies are not separate, but intertwined, forming a story that shows growth without sacrificing the core theme of sisterhood that defines the Frozen franchise. Another possible element of their new journey could involve how the people of Arendelle adapt to a queen who leads with heart rather than fear, and how they view Elsa now that she is no longer physically present, but still protecting them through the unseen magic of the spirits. There could be new characters introduced from neighboring kingdoms, or hidden magical realms that bring conflict, friendship, or unexpected alliances, creating opportunities for Elsa and Anna to unite again in ways that combine their strengths. The journey may also take them beyond Arendelle's borders, deep into lands once forgotten or forbidden, each location filled with lore and hidden secrets tied to their family's lineage. Since Frozen 2 revealed that their mother, Iduna, came from the North Uldra, Frozen 3 could explore unseen relatives, ancient traditions, or unresolved tensions between magic users and human kingdoms. The emotional growth of the characters also sets the stage for powerful narrative arcs. Anna evolving into a wise and protective queen, Elsa mastering the deeper essence of magic, and both stepping into roles that reflect their truest selves, without losing the childlike love that bonded them since childhood. Olaf may serve as a bridge between the two worlds as well, visiting Arendelle, but also spending time in the Enchanted Forest, giving viewers a comedic yet heartfelt look at how these worlds connect. Their journey is not simply about physical travel, but about understanding what it means to lead, to protect, and to stay connected, even when their lives pull them in different directions. The tone of Frozen 3 could reflect a blend of maturity and wonder, showing how the sisters are no longer searching for identity, but discovering how to use their strengths for others. Their journey might require difficult choices, balancing responsibilities, and facing dangers that test the harmony between humans and nature. Ultimately, Elsa and Anna's new journey is a chance for the franchise to grow, up with its audience, while preserving the emotional magic that made the first two movies iconic, showing that even as roles change and paths diverge, the bond of sisterhood remains the heart of their story. As Frozen 3 continues to build upon this foundation, the narrative could naturally explore how distance has changed the way Elsa and Anna communicate, not as a source of tension, but as a new rhythm in their bond. Instead of needing to rescue or heal one another as they did in the past, their journey may involve learning how to support each other as equals from separate realms. Anna might send letters or magical messengers through Gale, the wind spirit, allowing her to stay connected with Elsa even when political duties keep her anchored to the castle. Elsa, in turn, could use the spirits to observe changes in the land and send warnings or guidance when she senses something that could affect Arendelle. This magical means of communication may be crucial, especially if the balance between the natural and human worlds begins to shift. One possibility is that the enchanted forest begins showing signs of unrest, rivers behaving unpredictably, fire, spirits flaring in unexpected ways, or earth giants wandering closer to human territory. Elsa, attuned to these subtle changes, might suspect that the cause lies beyond the forest, perhaps originating from human expansion, forgotten treaties, or ancient magic reawakening. She may feel conflicted about interfering directly in Arendelle's affairs, wanting Anna to lead in her own way, yet recognizing that remaining silent could allow danger to grow. This inner conflict would add emotional depth to Elsa's character, showing that even with clarity about who she is, she still grapples with how to use her power responsibly. Meanwhile, Anna might face political pressures that challenge her compassionate leadership style. Representatives from other kingdoms may question her decisions. Rival rulers may attempt to influence Arendelle's policies, and citizens might debate whether magic should play a greater role in their daily lives now that their former queen is a spirit guardian. Some may even express fear or resentment toward magic, believing it unpredictable despite Elsa's sacrifice and dedication. Anna's journey, then, could involve uniting her people while maintaining trust in her sister, navigating the complexities of leadership without losing her optimism or warmth. Kristoff might play an important role here, offering practical wisdom and emotional grounding. His background with the Northuldra and his connection to both worlds give him a unique lens through which to understand the changes unfolding around them. If tensions arise between humans and magical beings, he could act as a mediator, helping Anna interpret the concerns of the forest, while encouraging her to remain true to herself. Additionally, this dynamic could lead to key moments where Anna and Elsa must reunite, not because one is in peril, but because their choices affect both worlds and require cooperation. Their reunion in Frozen 3 could be a defining moment that symbolizes not just family affection, but a merging of destinies. The film might depict Anna traveling into the enchanted forest with diplomatic intent, seeking Elsa's counsel, or requesting intervention when events begin to escalate. At the same time, Elsa may feel compelled to cross back into Arendelle if the spirits warn her of disruptions that humans alone cannot resolve. Their meeting would carry emotional weight, reflecting their growth and the strong sense of mutual respect they now share. Another important aspect of their journey could involve uncovering more of their family's connection to magic. Frozen 2 revealed the truth about their parents' past, but it left unanswered questions about the origins of Elsa's powers, the deeper history of the spirits, and the role of humans in maintaining magical balance. Frozen 3 could delve into forgotten lore, ancient artifacts, or hidden temples, giving Elsa new insight into the fifth spirit's purpose, and revealing how Anna's rule might tie into a long-awaited prophecy or alliance. This would add layers of mystery and adventure, making their journey both personal and epic. The emotional stakes could rise further if a new character is introduced, perhaps a child or young figure from the enchanted forest or a distant land, who seeks Elsa's help or challenges her understanding of magic. This could parallel Anna's growth as she mentors the next generation of leaders in Arendelle, showing how both sisters influence the world beyond themselves. Olaf might serve as a voice of innocence that helps both Elsa and Anna see situations with clarity rather than fear, reminding them of the values that shape their bond. His humor could balance the serious themes, ensuring the tone remains family-friendly while exploring mature ideas. In addition, the film may emphasize the evolution of Olaf's curiosity about growing up, love, and identity, echoing the sisters' own reflections, but from a more light-hearted perspective. Another angle of their journey could explore how Arendelle adapts to Anna's rule over time. Citizens could take on new responsibilities. Young characters might emerge as future leaders, and the kingdom's relationship with neighboring nations could transform under her guidance. Anna's diplomatic style, rooted in empathy and bravery, may win allies, but also attract attention from those seeking to exploit her kindness. These challenges would test her resilience and reinforce the idea that leadership is not about having all the answers, but staying true to one's principles, even under pressure. Elsa's presence, though distant, could influence how other lands perceive Arendelle, especially if rumors spread about her powers or the spirit's involvement in world events. If Frozen 3 introduces a villain or antagonist, that figure may not be purely evil, but driven by fear, misunderstanding, or a desire for control over magic. This would align with the franchise's history of nuanced storytelling, where conflicts stem from emotional wounds or human error, rather than outright malice. Elsa and Anna's journey, then, could involve healing divisions rather than defeating an enemy, reinforcing the message that connection and understanding are stronger than force. As they face these new trials, their sisterhood would continue to anchor the narrative, showing that even when their lives take different shapes, they draw strength from each other's existence. By telling a story where both sisters are leaders in their own right, one of humans, one of magic, Frozen 3 has the potential to present a journey that celebrates independence without losing the power of family. The movie could culminate in a moment where they combine their roles to solve a larger issue affecting both worlds, proving that unity is not about sameness, but about honoring differences while working together. Their evolution from frightened children, hiding from truth, to bold women shaping the future makes their journey compelling and emotionally resonant for longtime fans and new viewers alike. And every step they take in Frozen 3 could deepen the legacy of their bond. As their story progresses further in Frozen 3, one of the most compelling directions their journey could take involves the idea of legacy, what Elsa and Anna will leave behind for future generations, and how their choices will shape the relationship between humans and magic for centuries to come. Elsa, now deeply bonded with the elemental spirits, might start noticing signs that the world beyond the enchanted forest is changing in unpredictable ways, perhaps due to shifts in climate, human expansion, or magical forces that have lain dormant since ancient times. These changes could trigger memories or visions passed through the spirits, suggesting that there was once a time when humans and elemental beings lived in harmony before fear created separation. This revelation might prompt Elsa to consider whether her role as the fifth spirit is not just to serve as a guardian, but to restore a connection that was lost long before Arendelle or the North Uldra existed. Her journey, then, would not be solitary. It would carry the weight of an entire history that is still being uncovered, urging her to act not just for the present, but for the continuity of magic itself. Anna, in contrast, may face increasingly complex political dilemmas as queen, with new alliances forming and old ones being tested. If neighboring kingdoms hear whispers of imbalance or witness phenomena related to the spirits, they may reach out to Arendelle for answers or assistance. Some rulers might view Anna as a valuable partner because of her link to Elsa and the Enchanted Forest, while others may see her as a threat or a symbol of instability. This would force Anna to grow even more strategic and confident, blending diplomacy with courage to protect her people without compromising her values. She could initiate new treaties or councils aimed at promoting peace and cooperation, using her leadership as a bridge between differing ideologies. Despite the weight of her responsibilities, Anna's personality would remain vibrant and heartfelt, influencing how others respond to her. Olaf, and possibly even Sven, could offer unexpected wisdom through innocence and loyalty, lightening moments of tension while reminding the audience that strength is not always loud or intimidating. In moments of uncertainty, Anna may reflect on the journeys she and Elsa have endured together, from the fear that isolated them in childhood to the triumph that allowed them to stand in their truth and draw inspiration from that history to guide her next steps. One of the most emotional themes Frozen 3 could explore is the evolving meaning of home for both sisters. Elsa, once desperate to hide her powers, now finds freedom by living among the elements, while Anna, once searching for love and belonging, now embodies the spirit of Arendelle itself. However, home does not have to be a single place, and their journey may lead them to realize that their bond creates home, no matter the distance. They may be physically apart, but their hearts, memories, and values remain united. This emotional truth could manifest throughout the story as they make decisions that reflect trust rather than fear. Elsa could face a moment where she must choose whether to intervene directly in human conflicts, and instead of withdrawing as she once did, she may reach out to Anna for guidance, confident that her sister understands both worlds. Likewise, Anna may encounter a crisis she cannot solve through politics or bravery alone, prompting her to seek Elsa's insight and connection to the spirits. The way they turn to one another in moments of need can serve as a powerful statement about interdependence and maturity, showing that strength is not about isolation, but about knowing when to stand together. Another layer of their journey may involve uncovering deeper truths about their parents' legacy. Frozen 2 revealed that Iduna saved Agnar and concealed her identity, but Frozen 3 could expand on who their ancestors were, how the spirits first chose to interact with humans, and whether other bloodlines share similar connections. Elsa might discover ancient ruins, scrolls, or symbols that explain why she was born with powers, while Anna was not, offering closure to fans curious about the origins of her abilities. Instead of causing division, this knowledge could strengthen the bond between the sisters, reinforcing that their differences were always meant to complement each other. The theme of destiny versus choice could play a significant role here. Elsa may realize that being the fifth spirit is not a destiny imposed upon her, but a role she actively shapes through compassion and wisdom. Anna, too, may discover that being queen is not just a privilege or duty, but a choice to live for the people she loves and serve with empathy. Their journeys, though separate, would mirror one another in growth, responsibility, and identity. Their eventual reunion, whether it happens midway through the story or at its climax, could be one of the most anticipated scenes in Frozen. 3. Audiences might see them meet on the borders of Arendelle and the Enchanted Forest, or perhaps in a new magical location neither has visited before. Their interactions could carry both emotional nostalgia and renewed confidence, showcasing how much they have changed while remaining the same at heart. They may laugh at old memories, share quiet conversations about their responsibilities, and encourage each other without insecurity or fear. If a new threat or mystery emerges, they could decide to face it together, combining Elsa's magic with Anna's leadership in a way that feels natural and earned. A major event could serve as the catalyst for their joint mission, perhaps a sudden disruption in the magical balance, an artifact uncovered in Arendelle's archives, or the appearance of a messenger from a distant land that has been touched by the spirit's power. Whatever the inciting incident, it could lead to a journey that requires them to travel, discover, and grow side by side, much like their younger selves did, but on a more epic and mature scale. Their new journey might even take them across oceans, mountains, or hidden realms only the spirits know, expanding the scope of the frozen world beyond anything seen before. Along the way, they could gather allies, old friends like Kristoff and the North Uldra, and new characters who bring fresh perspectives and challenges. Their interactions with these allies would deepen their understanding of leadership, sacrifice, and legacy. The story could emphasize that being a queen or a spirit is not about perfection, but about embracing uncertainty with courage and trust. Through every twist in their journey, the emotional anchor would remain clear. Elsa and Anna are not just sisters by blood. They are partners in shaping the world's future. Whether they return to their separate homes at the end of the story, or choose to walk a shared path in a new way, Frozen 3 could leave audiences with the message that journeys do not end when roles change. They evolve, strengthen, and create connections that last far beyond a single moment in time. Their story has always been about love, not in the romantic sense, but in the profound, unshakable bond that shapes destinies. This next journey, filled with discovery, responsibility, and unity, could become the most meaningful chapter of all, proving that the power of their relationship is as enduring as magic itself. Ever since the conclusion of Frozen 2, the relationship between Anna and Kristoff has stepped into a new era that goes far beyond the nervous proposal attempts and awkward misunderstandings that once defined their dynamic. Now that Anna has become the Queen of Arendelle and Kristoff has fully accepted his place in her life, their bond has matured into something deeper, steadier, and more layered than anything shown in the previous films. Their love is not just romantic background decoration. It stands as one of the emotional pillars of the new chapter. Frozen 3 has the potential to explore how their connection evolves under the weight of royal duties, personal dreams, and the silent expectations placed on both of them by the people of the kingdom. Kristoff, once a rugged ice harvester, content with solitude, now finds himself walking the polished halls of the castle more than the snowy cliffs of the mountains. Yet he does not abandon his identity. Instead, he reshapes it around the responsibilities he has willingly taken on by standing beside Anna. Rather than being overwhelmed by courtly customs or political ceremonies, he absorbs them with quiet humor, leaning on his grounded personality to navigate formal gatherings and diplomatic dinners. Even though he never sought titles or recognition, his connection to the Queen grants him influence, and he learns to use it not to command authority, but to support decisions that protect both Arendelle and the North Uldra. The people of the kingdom, who once saw him as an outsider with a reindeer companion and a blunt manner, have come to respect his loyalty and authenticity, especially after witnessing his bravery and dedication in past crises. Still, Frozen 3 could explore the inner challenges he faces, adjusting to palace life while not losing the sense of freedom and simplicity that shaped him. Anna, meanwhile, balances the responsibilities of leadership with the joy and comfort she finds in Kristoff's presence. Her love for him has never been a distraction from her duties. Instead, it gives her emotional support in the moments when ruling a kingdom becomes overwhelming. She no longer questions whether she deserves love or worries about being left behind, like in the days when she longed for connection in the castle's silence. Now she stands as a queen who leads with strength, yet her relationship with Kristoff anchors her to the part of herself that is playful, spontaneous, and deeply empathetic. The way they communicate has grown more fluid, shaped by trust rather than hesitation. They no longer stumble over words or misinterpret intentions. Instead, they read each other with ease, understanding unspoken cues and offering comfort without needing dramatic declarations. Their personal conversations may happen in quiet corridors, after long meetings, in the stables while Kristoff tends to Sven, or during peaceful walks beyond the castle walls, where the weight of the crown momentarily lifts. While they love one another fiercely, their relationship is not portrayed as perfect or conflict-free. Frozen 3 has an opportunity to explore realistic struggles they could face, not through arguments born of immaturity, but through the complexity of their lives evolving in different yet intertwined directions. Kristoff may sometimes feel the pull of the mountains, calling him back to the familiarity of ice harvesting and forest life, especially when political obligations feel suffocating. Anna might occasionally struggle with delegating the emotional labor of rule, worrying about failing her people, or not living up to the legacy of her family. Yet, these potential tensions do not drive them apart. Instead, they create moments where their mutual support becomes stronger. Kristoff might remind Anna to rest, laugh, and breathe when court discussions dominate her thoughts. Anna, in turn, might encourage Kristoff to pursue projects that reflect his passions, perhaps forging stronger ties between the Northuldra and Arendelle, or creating new trade routes based on sustainable ice work. Their relationship could also expand beyond personal comfort into partnership in governance. Kristoff may begin informally advising on matters involving the natural world, using his experience in the wild to help Anna make informed decisions about land, resources, and the needs of the Northuldra. He might accompany her on journeys beyond the castle, not as a guard or shadow, but as a partner who complements her strengths. Together, they could represent the balance between civilization and nature, tradition and adaptation, intuition and leadership. Sven remains more than a beloved animal companion. His presence symbolizes the continuity of Kristoff's past, even as his life transforms. Anna's relationship with Sven has grown warmer and more familiar, evidence of the years she has spent by Kristoff's side. Their quiet moments with the reindeer could serve as emotional pause points in the story, reminding the audience that even amidst royal responsibilities and magical disturbances, the core of their bond is built on companionship, laughter, and genuine affection. Olaf, too, might play a surprising role in reflecting how Anna and Kristoff's relationship has evolved. His childlike curiosity about love and growing up could lead to humorous or heartfelt observations about the nature of their partnership, perhaps even pointing out things they do not consciously notice in themselves. If the film explores the idea of the future, whether through marriage, the possibility of children, or simply deepening commitment, it would likely be handled not with grand spectacle, but with sincerity. A proposal might not even be necessary if their partnership is already assumed by the people of Arendelle, but a symbolic decision or public acknowledgement could still become a meaningful moment in the story. Their love does not need dramatic tension to feel significant. It holds power precisely because it has endured storms, both literal and emotional. In earlier films, their interactions included misunderstandings about timing, fear of rejection, or external obstacles. Now those fears have been replaced by lived trust, shared memories, and aligned values. Frozen 3 could show how they rely on one another, not only in grand events, but also in the mundane routines that define the life of a queen and her companion. Their relationship may also become a subtle parallel to Elsa's independence, offering contrast without competition. Where Elsa's path leads her deeper into her magical purpose, Anna's path roots her in human connection and communal responsibility. Kristoff is not portrayed as overshadowing Anna, nor as someone she must rescue. Instead, they function as equals, each bringing something vital to the table. This balance reflects a healthier, more modern portrayal of love that aligns with the themes of the franchise: growth, acceptance, and the strength of emotional bonds. The people of Arendelle may even grow curious about what title Kristoff will eventually hold. Though he may care little for labels, he might continue to simply be Kristoff to most, even if the world begins to see him unofficially as the future king or royal consort. The important part is not what he is called, but the role he plays in Anna's life and the quiet leadership he exerts through kindness and action. He does not need a crown to be respected, and she does not need a prince to validate her place on the throne. The continuation of their relationship could serve as a reminder that love in the Frozen universe is not about possession or dependency. It is about choosing each other every day, not despite their differences, but because of them. Whether Frozen 3 shows them navigating festivals, peace agreements, or magical disruptions, their interactions will likely reflect humor, patience, and the kind of closeness that comes from truly knowing another person's heart. Their growth as a couple could also influence the younger generation, inspiring characters who look to them as examples of partnership built on mutual respect rather than fairy tale perfection. As changes ripple through the kingdom and beyond, Anna and Kristoff's relationship will stand as proof that stability does not mean stagnation. It can evolve, adapt, and deepen, even when the world demands more of them than ever before. And while their story does not need dramatic twists to hold emotional weight, Frozen 3 may still introduce moments that test their ability to balance duty and love, reinforcing the idea that the strongest relationships are not those without challenge, but those that thrive through it. Through every decision, every laugh, every quiet reassurance, their journey will continue to shape not only their own lives, but the future of Arendelle, reminding audiences that love grounded in respect and understanding is powerful enough to grow alongside destiny itself. Elsa's magical powers evolving further in Frozen 3 is one of the most exciting possibilities for fans who have followed her journey from isolation to empowerment across the previous movies. And the way her abilities could grow will not only define her personal arc, but also shape the world around her in new and unexpected ways, as she has already transitioned from the Queen of Arendelle into the protector of the Enchanted Forest. And with that transformation came a deeper connection to the elemental spirits of ice, wind, fire, water, and earth, suggesting that her magic may no longer be limited to creating snowflakes and ice sculptures, but might extend into realms that even she has yet to fully understand. And children across the world who idolize her will be eager to see how Disney expands her power set, because every time she learns something new, it adds wonder and emotional weight to the story. And in Frozen 1, her abilities were something she feared and tried to suppress due to childhood trauma and social expectation, whereas Frozen 2 turned that fear into purpose when she realized she was the fifth spirit, a bridge between the magical world and humanity. And this identity may push her beyond her previous limitations, because the spirits could guide her toward new manifestations of ice magic that reflect harmony rather than fear. And the creative teams behind Disney know that audiences love to witness power progression in characters they connect with emotionally. So we might see Elsa create entire environments with her abilities, not just temporary constructs, but living ecosystems of frost and crystalline beauty that interact with nature the way snow interacts with forests and rivers. And this possibility opens the door to grand visual sequences, where her ice does not feel cold or destructive, but symbiotic, growing alongside the natural world, like frost blooming gently on trees, or rivers turning into paths for magical travel. And another angle Frozen 3 could explore is Elsa gaining new senses or perceptions tied to the spirits, such as feeling shifts in weather patterns, sensing imbalance in the forest, or even communicating telepathically with the other elemental forces without needing to see them directly. and fans might also expect a moment where she struggles not with fear, but with responsibility, because evolving magic comes with a larger duty to protect, heal, or restore, and her journey could reflect the emotional maturity that children and adults both appreciate. A character learning not how to hide power, but how to master it with wisdom, compassion, and vision for the future. And the writers could interweave this with Anna's storyline, so that while Elsa's abilities grow, her bond with her sister stays central, emphasizing that evolution in power should not lead to isolation, but deeper connection. And visually, Disney could push boundaries by experimenting with new animation techniques for her abilities, such as fractal patterns across the sky, ice that moves like flowing light, or magical auroras shaped by her emotions, giving her powers a spiritual rather than purely physical expression. And if Anna, Kristoff, Olaf, and Sven witness these changes, their reactions would help the audience interpret the scale and wonder of what Elsa is becoming. And children watching Frozen 3 may imitate her movements, imaginary style, just like they did with the iconic Let It Go scene, because evolving powers mean new scenes to remember, new transformations to admire, and new possibilities for toys, merchandise, and costumes. And narratively, Elsa might encounter a situation that forces her to test the true extent of her growth, such as protecting the enchanted forest from imbalance, healing a damaged natural element, or connecting with a previously unknown spirit that reveals more about the origins of her magic. And this kind of plot would provide emotional stakes and thematic resonance, because her evolution would not be just for spectacle, but tied to identity, ancestry, responsibility, and healing the divide between humans and the magical world. And the idea that Elsa's powers could evolve also raises intriguing questions about whether she will remain solely aligned with ice, or if her role as the fifth spirit means she can channel aspects of other elements indirectly, not by becoming fire, wind, or water herself, but by harmonizing with them to produce hybrid manifestations like steam, mist, aurora bursts, frozen lightning, or ice structures, infused with spiritual energy. And audiences, especially kids, would be fascinated by how these changes appear, whether through emotional triggers, ancient songs, memories of her mother, or contact with new creatures of the forest. And we might also see Elsa using her powers in quieter, more intimate ways, such as preserving fragile plants, creating protective shelters for animals, soothing storms, or crafting glowing ice symbols that communicate across distances. And the deeper symbolism here is that magic evolves with the heart and mind of the one who wields it. So Elsa's personal growth will mirror her magical expansion and allow her to embody calm strength rather than defensive reaction. And some fans theorize that Frozen 3 might introduce a new character who either challenges or mentors Elsa, possibly another individual connected to elemental forces, which would push her abilities to adapt under pressure or collaboration. And scenes of magical cooperation or conflict could demonstrate how far she has come since the days of losing control when startled. And now, with confidence and awareness, she could channel her abilities with precision, shaping ice into bridges, wings, or mechanisms that serve the story, rather than merely expressing emotion. And children who view her as a role model would take away the message that growth comes from acceptance, love and bravery, rather than fear and suppression. And if the film explores how Elsa's magic responds to music, the way her emotions did in earlier movies, there could be powerful sequences where her songs literally shape the world around her in new forms of animation that blend sound and ice visually, turning melodies into sculpted motion. And because Frozen has always balanced character development with breathtaking visuals, evolving Elsa's magic offers a perfect opportunity to show innovation in both storytelling and design. And while some might worry that making her too powerful could erase tension, the writers can maintain stakes by focusing on internal conflict, cultural responsibility, or the discovery that great power requires deeper understanding. And perhaps there are limits or costs associated with using certain forms of magic, which will force Elsa to think critically and channel only what aligns with balance. And children as well as adult viewers would connect emotionally if her journey shows that growth does not eliminate vulnerability, but reshapes it. And a compelling twist could be Elsa discovering that her ice can preserve memories, project visions from the past, or unlock frozen secrets buried in landscapes, allowing her to become not only a protector, but also a historian of magic. And this narrative direction ties into themes from Frozen 2 about the past not being what it seems and the importance of truth. So if her evolving powers can help uncover hidden histories or heal old wounds, the story would gain depth without abandoning the adventurous tone. And the movie could also explore the idea that Elsa's powers might inspire new generations of characters or creatures who look up to her as a guardian spirit, and such interactions could show her evolving from a solitary figure into a leader who guides others in understanding magic responsibly. And kids who love fantasy would be mesmerized by scenes where Elsa demonstrates new techniques, like shaping ice feathers into birds, summoning protective ice barriers that shimmer like northern lights, or forming snow guardians that defend without aggression. And her emotional arc might reflect acceptance that magic is not something she has to control constantly, but something that flows through her in harmony with her identity and the world. And that realization could create touching scenes with Anna, where the sisters talk about how far they have come since their childhood separation, emphasizing that love gave Elsa the strength to reach this stage of evolution. And Frozen 3 might also present scenarios where Elsa's powers react unpredictably, not out of fear, but due to external forces such as ancient magic awakening, environmental changes, or a conflict between spirits. And these situations would challenge her to grow further and adapt by listening, learning, and collaborating. And children will appreciate watching her handle magical surprises with confidence rather than panic, showing how growth feels in real life as well. And visually, the animators could personify elements of her evolving power through new creatures or magical symbols that appear spontaneously in the ice she creates, each symbol telling part of her story or reflecting aspects of the world she protects. And these details would enhance the rewatch value and inspire fan theories and merchandise possibilities like crystals, accessories, or light-up toys would accompany this evolution naturally. And from a storytelling standpoint, Elsa's powers might evolve not just in strength, but in meaning, shifting from a source of personal conflict to a symbol of unity between realms. And if Frozen 3 emphasizes this change, kids who once saw her as someone struggling might now see her as someone leading with wisdom and peace. And that character development would be one of Disney's strongest arcs in recent animated history. And since her identity is tied to ice, the filmmakers will likely keep her core aesthetic, but add new layers, showing how ice can be gentle. Olaf's comedy role in Frozen 3 is expected to be bigger, funnier, and more emotionally layered than ever before, because his character has grown from a simple, magical snowman created by Elsa's childhood imagination into a beloved figure who represents innocence, joy, curiosity, and unexpected wisdom. And children around the world adore him, not only because he is funny with his silly jokes and exaggerated expressions, but also because he often delivers emotional clarity at key moments, with his honest observations and heartfelt sincerity, making him one of the most memorable side characters in modern animated films. And in Frozen and Frozen 2, he played crucial roles in balancing tension with humor, such as when he delighted audiences with his summer dreams, or dramatically retold the events of the first movie in a hilariously over-the-top manner for the Northuldra tribe. And now in Frozen 3, his comedic presence is likely to expand further, because the stakes of the story might be higher, the world might be bigger, and the tone might shift between mystery, adventure, and emotional growth, all of which benefit from a character who can lighten the atmosphere without ever feeling out of place. And Olaf has always been a childlike figure who asks simple but profound questions about love, life, growing up, family, and change. And children naturally relate to him because he expresses their thoughts without embarrassment or hesitation, while adults laugh because his lines often contain witty humor that works on multiple levels. And Disney understands that Olaf is not just comic relief, but also a narrative bridge between the magical and the emotional elements of the story. So in Frozen 3, his comedic role could include new scenes where he explores unfamiliar environments, interacts with new creatures, misunderstands serious situations in hilarious ways, and still finds opportunities to comfort his friends at just the right moment. And his voice actor Josh Gad has become synonymous with the character, bringing improvisation, warmth, and timing that elevate even the simplest lines into memorable moments. And fans will anticipate that Olaf might have new songs or musical moments since his previous numbers, like In Summer and When I Am Older, became fan favorites. And if Frozen 3 introduces new comedic musical sequences for him, they could blend humor with hints of awareness about the changes happening around him, such as him trying to understand new, magical elements or reacting dramatically to events that confuse him. And children will likely mimic his lines, laugh at his expressive animations, and enjoy scenes where he interacts with animals, spirits, or perhaps even other magical snowmen if the film decides to expand his kind in a new way. And another possibility is Olaf taking on a slightly more responsible role without losing his charm, especially if Anna and Elsa, or Kristoff, give him tasks to manage or involve him in plans where his unintentional chaos becomes helpful. And this could create running gags, where Olaf tries very hard to be serious, but his natural goofiness keeps turning situations into comic moments. And audiences always love characters who mean well but stumble into hilarious outcomes. And Olaf's innocence could also be used to poke fun at adult worries, dramatic tension, or misunderstandings between characters. And his commentary might highlight how grown-ups complicate simple things, turning that into comedic gold. And visually, Frozen 3 could experiment with how Olaf moves, melts, reshapes, or interacts with his surroundings in funny ways, like his head rolling down slopes or his body parts rearranging during chaotic moments. And children find physical comedy like this especially entertaining. And if the story takes characters to new lands or introduces weather elements that affect Olaf differently, like warm climates, magical storms, or unusual creatures nibbling on his nose, it could add fresh comedic situations that still feel true to his personality. And since he has shown curiosity about everything he encounters, Frozen 3 might include sequences where he tries to interview new characters, imitate animals, or attempt serious conversations that turn into jokes because he interprets them in his own delightfully literal style. And Olaf might also develop comedic chemistry with returning side characters like Sven or new creatures introduced in the film, and scenes where he talks to animals or spirits who don't respond verbally often generate humor through his assumptions about what they're thinking. and Disney could play with visual humor by having Olaf attempt dramatic heroic poses, stealth missions, or leadership moments that collapse into laughter-filled chaos. And yet, underneath the comedy, his role often carries unexpected emotional weight, as seen in Frozen 2, when he expressed concern about growing up and the fear of change, which resonated deeply with children who experience similar feelings. And if Frozen 3 continues to blend humor with emotional insight, Olaf's comedic scenes could also subtly teach lessons about friendship, fear, responsibility, or optimism in changing times. And that combination is part of why parents and kids both love him. And another angle Frozen 3 could explore is Olaf developing new philosophical thoughts that make characters and audiences reflect, even while laughing, because his honesty often cuts through complex drama, with one-liners that are both funny and meaningful. And writers could use this to comment on events in the story, without making the tone too heavy. And if Olaf witnesses Elsa's evolving powers, or Anna's challenges as Queen of Arendelle, he might react in humorous ways, such as trying to train his own powers, inventing imaginary magic, offering nonsensical advice, or panicking with exaggerated flair when something magical happens suddenly. And children naturally gravitate toward characters who make big reactions, funny sounds, and unpredictable movements. So Olaf's animation in Frozen 3 could emphasize expressive gestures, wide-eyed wonder, and hilarious timing, and his comedic dynamic with Anna and Kristoff might involve teasing, misunderstandings, or moments where he accidentally reveals secrets, attempts to solve problems with goofy logic, or misinterprets serious dialogue as something playful. And another potential comedic thread is Olaf trying to understand human customs again, such as formal events, celebrations, or traditions in Arendelle or beyond. And his innocent confusion could lead to visual gags and witty remarks. And if the film includes a wedding, coronation, festival, or diplomatic gathering, Olaf could accidentally disrupt it in comical ways, perhaps knocking things over, dancing awkwardly, or giving overly honest speeches, and audiences would laugh while still viewing him as lovable. And his bond with children in the story, if any appear, could also provide comedy as he becomes a playmate, accidental babysitter, or storyteller who explains things in the most overdramatic or incorrect yet entertaining ways. And Frozen 3 might even show Olaf trying to take notes on the world like a scholar, but his versions of facts are hilariously off, and his attempts to sound serious could become running jokes that kids quote. And since Olaf is made of snow, his physical form gives animators a lot of flexibility for comedic exaggeration, like squishing, stretching, breaking apart, and reassembling. And they could use this to enhance visual comedy while still keeping him expressive and endearing. And fans might also enjoy callbacks to previous films, such as Olaf referencing his melting dreams of summer, or bragging about his dramatic retelling skills, perhaps trying to summarize events again in absurd fashion. And this kind of self-awareness adds humor for older viewers too. And Frozen 3 could introduce new comedic songs where Olaf sings about confusing topics like history, science, growing up, or relationships, but in his own funny and slightly clueless way that entertains kids and adults alike. And the writers might also include scenes where Olaf tries to be brave in silly ways, charging into dangers without understanding them, or offering himself as a distraction while unintentionally saving the day. And this type of humor blends slapstick with heartwarming loyalty, and audiences recognize that Olaf, despite being silly, genuinely cares for Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, and Sven, and his comedic presence brings warmth to intense moments. And because the Frozen franchise balances humor with emotion, Olaf's growth could also reflect how comedy helps people cope with change, loss, or fear. and his simple-minded bravery could contrast with the complexity of evolving magic, political responsibilities, or external threats, providing relief and balance. And children often absorb important messages better when wrapped in comedy. And Olaf is the perfect character to deliver those messages. And in terms of animation technology, Disney could take advantage of improving rendering techniques to make Olaf's snow texture, expressions, and movements even more detailed and lively, enhancing the comedic effect through tiny gestures, eye movements, or squishy reactions. And his carrot nose, twig arms, and coal buttons could be used for new jokes, like losing parts temporarily, swapping shapes, or interacting with objects in ways that surprise viewers. And Olaf might also comment humorously on Elsa's powers, Anna's leadership, or Kristoff's reindeer habits with affectionate teasing that keeps the tone light, and the interplay between Olaf and any new side character, such as a baby spirit, enchanted creature, or lost traveler, could create comedic duos that audiences instantly love. And children might ask for toys or plushies based on those interactions. And integrating Olaf's comedy into the main plot without making him feel like a separate element is something. Arendelle's future after Frozen 2 is one of the most intriguing aspects that Frozen 3 can explore, because the kingdom has undergone major changes, both politically and emotionally. After Anna became the new queen, and Elsa chose to live in the enchanted forest as the fifth spirit, creating a unique dynamic where leadership is shared, not by proximity, but by purpose. And this separation does not weaken their bond, but rather strengthens the connection between Arendelle and the magical world, suggesting that the kingdom's future will be defined by unity, growth, and harmony between humans and the elemental forces that surround them. And children who watched Frozen 2 witnessed how Arendelle faced the threat of destruction when the dam built in the past caused tension with the Northuldra and the spirits. But the resolution of that conflict opened the door to a more honest and peaceful era, where the wrongs of the past could be acknowledged and repaired, giving Anna the chance to rule with empathy, wisdom, and transparency. And audiences will be curious to see how she manages the responsibilities of queenship going forward, especially as someone who has always been energetic, hopeful, and deeply loyal to her family and people. And Frozen 3 could portray her as a queen who leads not with an iron fist, but with open arms, listening to her advisors, citizens, and even neighboring lands, while still embracing her fun-loving and courageous personality. And children may be excited to see how Arendelle looks now that Elsa is not physically living there, because visually the kingdom could introduce new architectural features, festivals, or traditions that reflect its connection to the enchanted forest. And perhaps the castle now displays symbols of unity with the Northuldra, or statues honoring the spirits and the late king and queen, who once traveled beyond Arendelle to discover truth they could not share. And Anna might pass laws that encourage peace, sustainability, and education, showing her development as a leader who learns while ruling. And Kristoff's role as her partner, or possibly king consort, could add a supportive dynamic where he helps manage transportation, trade, or relations with mountain tribes, using his background as an ice harvester and his connection with the Northuldra to strengthen alliances. And Sven, as always, would charm the people with his presence, making even royal events feel friendly and approachable. And Olaf, living between Arendelle and the forest, could be a symbolic ambassador of unity, spreading joy among children and reminding the kingdom that magic is not something to fear. And the film could show how the citizens of Arendelle have embraced the truth about the magical forest and the spirits, perhaps opening pathways or sending delegates to maintain communication and goodwill. And this openness would mark a stark contrast from the fear and secrecy that characterized the earlier reigns, allowing the kingdom to flourish under more compassionate guidance. And visually, Frozen 3 could depict Arendelle experiencing subtle magical influences from Elsa's presence nearby, such as gentle flurries in the air during celebrations, auroras glowing above the castle, or crystals forming along the fjord as signs of harmony rather than danger. And children would find these magical touches enchanting, while adults would appreciate the symbolism of peace between realms. And politically, Arendelle's future could involve new alliances with neighboring kingdoms, or visits from dignitaries curious about the enchanted forest and its protector. And Queen Anna's leadership might be tested by diplomatic challenges, resource management, or natural shifts linked to the spirits, giving the story depth while keeping it accessible to younger audiences through the lens of character relationships and emotional decisions. And one potential direction Frozen 3 could take is exploring how the people of Arendelle adapt to a world where magic is acknowledged openly, and whether any individuals show curiosity, fear, or ambition regarding it, and how Anna navigates these sentiments while protecting both her kingdom and the balance established by Elsa. And children watching might relate to the idea of change and how communities adjust to new truths, learning that progress requires kindness, understanding, and communication. And visually, the film could introduce new locations within Arendelle, such as schools where children learn about the spirits, marketplaces where Northuldra goods are available, or events where songs and dances combine traditions from both cultures. And these elements would make the kingdom feel alive and evolving. And Olaf's interactions with citizens could show the comedic but meaningful integration of magical beings into everyday life. And perhaps Arendelle even creates safe pathways for visitors to travel to the enchanted forest under guidance, showing how bridges of trust can replace old divides. And Queen Anna might consult Elsa through messengers or spiritual signals when major decisions arise, highlighting the enduring bond between them, even across distance. And children will love scenes where Anna speaks to Elsa through crystals, wind messages, or snowy flurries that appear at her balcony. And this connection would symbolize sisterhood and unity guiding the kingdom forward. And the royal court itself could be updated in Frozen 3 to reflect Anna's leadership style, perhaps replacing old advisors who clung to fear with new voices that encourage inclusion and respect. And while tension may still exist in pockets of the population, the film could show how kindness and truth gradually transform old beliefs, and this message would resonate with families watching together. And if a new challenge or mystery affects Arendelle in Frozen 3, viewers might see how the lessons learned from the past empower the kingdom to respond with courage rather than panic. And Anna's journey might include moments where she doubts herself, but remembers that leadership is not about perfection, but about heart. And Kristoff, Olaf, and the citizens would support her in humorous and heartfelt ways, reinforcing the theme that community shapes the future. And visually, Arendelle might expand its harbour, update its defences not with weapons, but with environmental protections, and encourage exploration and cooperation instead of isolation. And if the enchanted forest influences the weather around the kingdom, subtle seasonal changes could occur in harmony, showing how Elsa's presence as the fifth spirit maintains a natural rhythm that benefits both worlds. And children might enjoy scenes of animals from the forest visiting Arendelle, or magical creatures appearing in celebrations with delight rather than fear. And the film could also honor the memory of Elsa and Anna's parents by revealing more about their intentions, possibly through letters, artifacts, or conversations with spirits, showing how their legacy continues in the choices the sisters make. And Arendelle's royal history might be rewritten in stories told to children so future generations grow up with truth and respect for magic. And this rewriting of history could be depicted humorously through Olaf's storytelling, but grounded in sincerity. And the kingdom's economy might also grow through trade with the Northuldra and other neighbouring lands, perhaps exporting ice, crafts, and goods while importing cultural items, creating a rich setting where geography, culture, and magic blend. And Frozen 3 could include scenes of festivals that celebrate the spirits, with ice sculptures, wind dances, and firelight displays that reflect the elements in harmony. And Anna might attend these events not as a distant queen, but as an active participant, dancing with her people and sharing food and laughter. And such scenes would reinforce her image as a queen of the people, loved for her authenticity, and children would be inspired by a leader who is kind, brave, and relatable. And if any external threat arises in the story, such as a misunderstanding with another kingdom or a shift in the natural world, Arendelle's response would likely emphasize cooperation rather than war, and Anna's decisions could show how strength lies in unity and wisdom rather than force, and Elsa's influence would still be felt even if she is not physically present, perhaps through magical interventions or advice communicated through the elements. And this dynamic would show that leadership can take many forms. And Frozen 3 could also explore how the citizens view Elsa, now that they know the truth about her being the fifth spirit, and whether children in Arendelle grow up admiring her magic or dreaming of meeting the spirits. And those dreams could inspire side plots, where new characters seek to understand magic more deeply, leading to comedic or emotional adventures involving Olaf and others. And visually the kingdom could blend winter and spring aesthetics, creating an environment that feels both enchanted and grounded, with snowy rooftops during festivals, warm lights in homes, and frost patterns appearing occasionally as signs of Elsa's affection. And merchandise tie-ins for children could feature new outfits for Anna, Kristoff, and possibly updated clothing designs inspired by the Enchanted Forest, reflecting the unity of styles. And the future of Arendelle might also include projects to rebuild areas affected by past events, showing progress and healing. And statues or memorials might stand as reminders of bravery, truth, and reconciliation, inspiring pride in the people and curiosity in visitors. And because Frozen storytelling often intertwines personal emotion with larger themes, Arendelle's future could mirror the emotional journeys of its key characters, with Anna stepping fully into her role as queen, while still leaning on her loved ones. As the story evolves in Frozen 3, the tension between duty, legacy, and change becomes even more pronounced across the kingdom of Arendelle and the Enchanted Forest, drawing the characters into a web of choices that test not only their individual strength, but their trust in one another. Elsa, having embraced her identity as the protector of the elemental spirits, begins to experience a new kind of restlessness, one that isn't born from fear or confusion like in the past, but from an instinctive awareness that her connection to the spirits is deepening and expanding in ways she didn't predict. She senses whispers in the wind and tremors in the ice that hint at forces older than the spirits she already knows, raising questions about whether there are forgotten elements or ancient agreements that even the Northuldra elders haven't spoken of. Meanwhile, Anna, now ruling as Queen of Arendelle, is settling into leadership with a steady heart but faces mounting pressure from the kingdom's trade partners, advisors, and citizens who are eager to understand how the alliance with the Enchanted Forest will shape their future. Though confident in her vision, she occasionally feels the enormity of ruling without Elsa by her side each day. And those quiet moments of self-doubt surface when unexpected diplomatic challenges threaten to slow progress on rebuilding and strengthening the realm. Kristoff, ever loyal, continues perfecting his role as ambassador between the Northuldra and Arendelle, traveling frequently and learning traditions that stretch back through generations. His journeys reveal small cultural tensions that still exist, reminders that healing and unity don't erase history overnight. Olaf, with his bright curiosity, takes on the role of storyteller for children in the castle, sharing tales of Elsa's powers, the magical spirits and their journeys, unknowingly shaping the beliefs of a new generation that sees magic with far more acceptance than the adults once did. Even Sven plays a subtle symbolic part in bridging both worlds, standing beside Kristoff as a reminder that connections to nature and creatures are part of both cultures' way of life. Together, these intertwining responsibilities set the stage for the next major development. A mysterious shift in seasonal patterns begins to ripple through the forest and the fjords. The snow melts too slowly in some regions and too quickly in others. The winds hum with unusual patterns, and the earth spirit seems reluctant to rest. No one panics, at first, because the signs are subtle, but Elsa feels them more intensely each day. She wonders if this imbalance is a warning of something approaching, or the result of something left undone after the restoration of peace. Without wanting to alarm anyone prematurely, she quietly observes and gathers clues. Even as Anna handles a sudden influx of visitors from coastal towns concerned about strange weather affecting their crops, trade routes, and harbours, the sisters don't initially tell each other the full extent of what they're experiencing, not because they lack trust, but because both want to protect the other from additional stress. That simple choice, born of love, will soon become the spark that leads them toward a larger revelation neither could anticipate, one that intertwines Arendelle's distant past with the unspoken truths of the ice-enchanted forest and challenges everything they believe about the source and limits of magic. As the strange climate changes continue to ripple across both Arendelle and the enchanted forest, the characters begin to sense that this imbalance isn't temporary or random. It's a signal of something deeper that has been dormant for centuries. Elsa, still attuned to every quiver of ice and subtle shift in the spirit's energy, rides Nock across the glacial waterways to investigate areas where the magic feels especially unsettled. The wind spirit Gale carries whispers that seem fragmented, as though words from an ancient language are trying to form but can't quite cross the boundary of time. The fire spirit, Bruni, flickers with nervous energy, darting from tree to tree as sparks crackle unexpectedly, and even the usually calm water spirit feels heavier, as though weighted down by secrets. Meanwhile, Anna consults the castle archivists to search for any record of unusual weather patterns in the past, uncovering fragments of journals from early rulers of Arendelle who described the swaying of the seasons, a time when harvests failed and rivers froze without warning. The texts offer no explanation for the cause, only vague references to the mountains' roots, holding their breath, and the sky forgetting its promises. Though Anna doesn't yet share these findings with Elsa, she feels a growing urgency and quietly assigns trusted guards to monitor the fjords, ports, and farms. Kristoff, ever practical, organizes supply distribution for villages affected by melting snow and reroutes merchant paths blocked by late ice sheets. Even Olaf begins to notice the way children ask different questions in his storytelling sessions, questions about whether magic can get tired or lost, and whether Arendelle is truly safe now that so many old truths have come to light. The tension slowly turns into a quiet undercurrent of concern that spreads across both lands, though no one wants to disrupt the peace they've worked so hard to protect. Late one evening, Elsa sits alone at the edge of a crystalline lake, weaving her fingers through the air to listen more closely to the silence between the spirit voices. She hears the faint echo of something below the surface, an ancient pulse, rhythmic and deep, like a heartbeat wrapped in frost. It doesn't frighten her, but it fills her with a sense of unfinished destiny. At the same time, Anna faces an unexpected challenge when representatives from neighboring kingdoms arrive to discuss rumors of unpredictable weather spreading beyond Arendelle's borders. They seek reassurance, not confrontation, but Anna must carefully navigate their questions without revealing how little is known. Though she stands strong, she feels the weight of being the one who must keep hope alive without overpromising solutions. Back in the forest, the North Uldra elders gather around flickering campfires, observing the shifting patterns of moss, wind, and water, silently aware that the land is calling for attention. They speak in low tones about stories passed orally through generations, stories never recorded on parchment but remembered through ceremony. The threads of these ancient tales, the archives in Arendelle, and the signs felt by the spirits all begin to align, though no one sees the full pattern yet. This growing web of mystery is not one of chaos, but of awakening, an awakening that will draw Elsa, Anna, and everyone bound to their world into a journey that challenges not only the balance of the elements, but the very history they thought they understood. With the subtle warnings of imbalance quietly spreading through the land, Heading 9 becomes the turning point where instinct, history, and responsibility begin to merge into action, even if the characters haven't yet spoken their concerns out loud. Elsa, still feeling the pull of something ancient beneath the surface of the world, starts noticing patterns in the way the elements respond to her presence. When she travels with Nock across shimmering sheets of ice, the water moves in spirals rather than waves, almost as if it's trying to form symbols. Frost on tree bark forms shapes she doesn't recognize, but they echo the rhythm of the heartbeat she sensed earlier. Every step she takes into the wilderness feels less like exploration and more like being summoned. Yet she hesitates to call it a threat. Instead, it feels like a forgotten song, humming just beyond memory. At the same time, Anna faces increasing demands from visiting dignitaries who represent distant kingdoms, experiencing similar anomalies. Some report early snowfall in spring, while others mention rivers drying up temporarily, but then flooding without rain. The tone of their council meetings is diplomatic but uneasy, and Anna must address concerns without revealing the growing uncertainty she feels. Despite her composed exterior, she's haunted by fragments of the old journals she discovered, especially a recurring line in one ruler's notes. When the sky and the roots argue, the land listens but does not speak. Kristoff returns from a North Uldra gathering with stories of ancient symbols carved into stones deep in the forest. Symbols the elders say are older than any living memory. He mentions them casually one evening over dinner, not realizing how closely they resemble the frost markings Elsa has begun to see. Olaf, always the observer beneath his cheerful innocence, starts connecting dots no one expects him to notice. He recalls the tales Elsa once told about the origins of the spirits and wonders aloud if there are other forces or other stories that were never told because they were simply forgotten. His questions, though light-hearted, plant seeds in the minds of everyone around him. Even Sven seems more alert when the wind changes, raising his head and listening like he understands something humans cannot. Then comes the moment that shifts everything from quiet concern to inevitable discovery. A low tremor rolls through the ground at dawn, subtle enough not to cause alarm, but strong enough that everyone in both Arendelle and the Enchanted Forest feels it beneath their feet. The earth spirit, normally slow and steady, stirs in its resting place and releases a groan that echoes like distant thunder. Birds take flight earlier than usual, and the air feels charged with expectation. Elsa pauses in the middle of a snowy clearing when she feels it, placing her palm to the ice and closing her eyes as the vibration travels through her body. This time, the heartbeat isn't faint. It's clear, insistent, and close. Anna receives reports from the harbour about minor shifts in the coastline overnight. Nothing destructive, but unusual enough to raise eyebrows among sailors. She gathers her counsel, but the answers she needs aren't in policy or maps. She senses that whatever is happening isn't something that can be managed with orders or negotiations. It must be understood at its origin. Without announcing her plan to anyone except Kristoff, she prepares to leave the castle quietly, to meet Elsa in the enchanted forest, certain that their paths must align again. What no one realizes yet is that the tremor wasn't a warning, but a greeting, an awakening of something neither spirit nor human, something tied to the land before names, before kingdoms, before stories were written down. As light breaks across the horizon and touches the frost, a new chapter of their journey begins, one that will test not just their strength, but the depth of their trust, history, and connection to a world much older than they ever imagined. As the subtle tremor fades into memory, but leaves an undeniable imprint on everyone who felt it, the events of Heading 10 unfold with a growing sense of momentum that pulls every character closer to an inevitable convergence of purpose. Elsa, now certain that the heartbeat she sensed is tied to something deeper than the elemental spirits, begins tracing the unfamiliar frost patterns she has seen forming on stones, trees, and even the surface of frozen ponds. She rides Nock along the borders of the enchanted forest and into territories she has never explored, guided not by sight, but by a quiet intuition that seems to pulse in rhythm with the world beneath her. Each step reveals new signs: ice fissures shaped like spirals, clusters of glowing crystals buried in snowbanks, and small geysers of frost that vanish as quickly as they appear. She doesn't call for help or alert the spirits, not because she wants to handle it alone, but because she senses this mystery is reaching out to her specifically, like a voice speaking her name in a language that predates words. Meanwhile, Anna rides out from the castle with Kristoff and a small escort, leaving Olaf in charge of reassuring the townspeople with his sunny confidence and wildly creative explanations. She carries the journal she uncovered from the archives, pages bookmarked with references to the swaying of the seasons, and mentions of a pact made long before Arendelle's founding. Though the text is fragmented and metaphorical, phrases like "the first promise below the roots" and "the echo beneath the ice" stand out in her mind as more than poetic description. Kristoff, curious and concerned, listens as Anna reads aloud while they ride, realizing that these stories might not be myths, but records of a time when the elements themselves negotiated balance with forces no longer remembered. As they reach the outskirts of the enchanted forest, Gale greets them with a swirl of leaves and a tug of wind, not playful but purposeful, as though trying to usher them forward. The North Uldra, noticing the shifts in the land, begin gathering near the riverbanks to share visions and stories passed orally through generations. Some of the elders speak of an era before the spirits took form, when the land itself was the only guardian, and magic moved raw and unnamed through every mountain and valley. They believed those forces eventually fell silent when balance was achieved, withdrawing like a tide, but never entirely gone. As Elsa moves farther from familiar paths, she discovers a clearing where the ground is neither fully frozen nor thawed, but layered in a delicate lace of ice that hums faintly beneath her boots. When she kneels to touch it, a pulse ripples outward, soft but certain, as though acknowledging her presence. The sound of distant water echoes, even though no river is nearby, and the trees surrounding the clearing sway without wind. In that moment, she feels an overwhelming sense of recognition, not of memory, but of belonging to something older than her lineage or her powers. Elsewhere, Anna and Kristoff reach the heart of the forest and meet Yelena and the Northuldra leaders, who have also felt the tremor's call. Without hesitation, they agree to seek out Elsa together, believing that whatever is awakening concerns them all. Olaf, back at the castle, entertains children with tales of ancient snow that could sing and rivers that could speak, unknowingly echoing truths he doesn't fully understand. Even Sven seems restless, pawing at the ground and turning his ears toward the horizon, as though waiting for a signal only the earth can give. As evening descends, the aurora stretches across the sky earlier than usual, shimmering with colors no one has seen before. Hues of silver, emerald, and deep indigo swirling together in patterns that mirror the frost spirals Elsa has been following. The sight leaves everyone in quiet awe, but deep inside, a shared understanding begins to form. This is not a coincidence or a passing disturbance. It's an invitation, one written in ice, wind, memory, and silence, to uncover a truth buried beneath centuries of forgotten history. The journey ahead will not be about defeating an enemy or mending a broken bond, but about listening to a voice the world no longer remembers how to hear. As the forces beneath the world continue to stir with growing clarity, Heading 13 marks the moment when the threads of history, instinct, and forgotten magic begin to tighten around everyone connected to Arendelle and the Enchanted Forest. Elsa, deep within the crystalline chamber beyond the arch, rises slowly as the pulse beneath the ice intensifies. Not in speed, but in resonance. The sound no longer feels distant. It vibrates gently through her boots, her breath, even the air around her. Light flickers faintly under the surface, with each thrum, illuminating veins of frozen memory that wind through the ground like roots of time itself. She walks deeper into the chamber, and the walls around her begin to show shifting reflections, not of her face, but of silhouettes intertwined with elements she cannot quite define. These shapes move like echoes of the past rather than visions of the present, suggesting that this place has witnessed ages before spirits were given form. Yet instead of fear, she feels recognition, the kind that comes not from knowledge, but from belonging to something older than lineage. At the same time, Anna and the group begin their descent into the valley. Following the mirrored glow of the aurora, on snow and ice, the Northuldra walk with reverence, sensing they are approaching a place their ancestors once knew not by sight, but by soul. Yelena speaks softly about old songs that were never sung, but remembered through drum patterns and silences during winter, gatherings, songs that spoke of the first pact, a moment when the world shaped itself in harmony with forces now unnamed. Kristoff glances between the symbols on the frost and the expressions of the elders, realizing that these patterns may not be new, but resurfacing from the deep memory of the land. Anna holds the journal pages tighter, their words echoing in her thoughts. When the oldest breath stirs, listen not with ears, but with the bones of the world. Even she, who has always grounded herself in action and heart, rather than mysticism, can feel the rhythm beneath every step. Olaf, though far away in Arendelle, pauses mid-story as a sudden stillness passes through him, like a moment of perfect quiet before snowfall. The children around him blink in confusion as he gazes at the horizon, sensing, without understanding, that something important is aligning far beyond the castle walls. Back in the valley, the landscape shifts so subtly. It feels like watching the world exhale. Mist rises not from water, but from the frost itself, curling upward in slow spirals that move in harmony with the unseen pulse. The air carries a low hum, musical but not sung, and the trees stand motionless, as though listening, as Anna and the others, reach the final ridge before the chamber. The pulse spreads outward again, this time strong enough that even those without magical attunement feel it in their chests. It is not an alarm, but a summons, an awakening that acknowledges every soul connected to this land. Elsa, now at the center of the chamber, feels the walls warm slightly beneath her palm as she presses it to the ice. In that touch, something responds, not a spirit, not a memory, but a presence deeper than both. The light beneath the ice flares gently in a pattern she's seen, echoed in the frost across the valley, a spiraled constellation that loops back to its origin. She whispers nothing aloud, yet the land seems to hear her recognition. Outside, Anna sees the same spiraled shine, spreading faintly across the ground at her feet, connecting back to the clearing they left behind. The North Uldra elders exchange looks heavy with the weight of confirmation. This is the place their ancestors never named, because words could not contain it. The path forward is no longer guided by curiosity or duty alone. It is drawn by a promise made long before crowns in spirits or kingdoms existed. And though they do not yet know what waits within the ice and earth, every instinct, story, and sign tells them the same truth. They have not been brought here to solve a problem, but to remember a beginning. The world itself is now ready to speak again, as the convergence of spirits, memory, and destiny deepens across the land. Heading 14 marks the threshold, where the past and present begin to overlap so clearly that even those without magic can feel history rising to the surface. Elsa stands at the heart of the crystalline chamber, and the glow beneath the ice grows more deliberate with every breath she takes. The spiraled veins of light she has followed now curve around her like a circle, as if the land itself is drawing a boundary of recognition rather than confinement. The air in the chamber feels neither cold nor warm. It carries a stillness that suggests the world is holding a breath it has not released in centuries. As her fingertips rest against the ice floor, she senses, not hears, a sound that resembles layered voices, speaking in harmony beneath stone, water, and wind. It isn't language, but meaning, the way a melody can speak without words. She opens her eyes and sees faint movement in the walls once more, the silhouettes shifting, not as reflections of herself, but as echoes of lives and forms that existed before her time, before the spirits, possibly before names. Yet there is no fear rising within her, only a growing certainty that her presence here is not coincidence, but continuity. Meanwhile, Anna, Kristoff, Yelena, and the others finally reach the valley floor. As their boots touch the snow, the frost beneath them reacts, not cracking, but pulsing gently in time with the rhythm Elsa feels. None of them speak for several moments, not wanting to break the stillness that now feels intentional. Like the silence before a door opens, Anna looks ahead and sees, for the first time, the faint shimmer of the crystallized arch in the distance. Gale brushes past her shoulder, like a whisper of encouragement, and even Kristoff, who has always stayed grounded in the tangible, feels the unshakable impression that something alive is listening through the earth. The North Uldra elders begin, quietly humming a rhythm older than lyrics, a vibration carried more in their chests than their throats. It is not a song they were taught. It is a song they remember without knowing when they first heard it. Snowflakes drift down from a sky unclouded, glinting with hints of the aurora's colors even in daylight. Back in Arendelle, the townspeople feel a ripple through the ground once more, a tremor so soft it could be mistaken for a breath of the earth rather than movement. Olaf, standing near the fjord and watching the water reflect colors at dawn, pauses as a gust of wind circles him gently. Not cold or strong, but purposeful. He places his twig hand over his chest and whispers, "She's close," though he doesn't fully understand how he knows whom he means. In the valley, Anna steps forward first, the journal pages now forgotten inside her cloak, because she senses no written word can guide what must happen next. Kristoff walks beside her, Sven following with patient steadiness, the North Uldra Trail just behind, their expressions reverent and alert. As they approach the arch, the pulse beneath their feet spreads again, stronger this time, but not heavy or alarming, more like a welcome. Light rises faintly from cracks in the ice, spreading outward from the arch in a growing ring that mirrors the spiral patterns Elsa traced in frost earlier. For the first time, Anna feels not like she is chasing after Elsa, but walking towards something both of them were always meant to meet. Inside the chamber, Elsa turns as the pulse within the ice resonates beyond the walls. She doesn't hear footsteps, but she feels the presence of those approaching, each one distinct in energy, but unified by the same resonance, now guiding them all. The chamber responds with another flare of light, and the walls ripple like reflections across water. The silhouettes shift more clearly now, not as figures, but as movements, currents of magic flowing in loops and arcs that mirror tides, roots, auroras, and winds. It becomes clear that what she is witnessing is not memory in fragments, but memory alive. As the others draw near the arch, the boundary between outside and inside feels thinner, as though the land itself is preparing to allow passage, not merely through space, but through understanding. No one speaks Anna's name, but she feels called. No one calls for Elsa, but she feels answered. The light, the pulse, the silence, the rhythm. Everything aligns into a moment of stillness that is not empty, but filled with the weight of something about to awaken fully. What comes next will not be a confrontation or a crisis, but a revelation, one that connects the origins of their world with the future they are meant to build together.